Good morning, CaneSport. It's August the 28th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Canes fans, it is game week. The time is now. It is here. The season opener against Miami of Ohio up on Friday at 7 p.m. at Hard Rock Stadium. It is time to get fired up. And we are going to have a ton of news coming your way today on the website. We'll be talking to Mario Cristobal about the end of training camp, the season opener coming up. We'll be talking to both coordinators later today. So make sure you're on the site around midday. We will have a ton of news for you this morning. But right now we got a few things that we can talk about. And Matt, let's start with, the revelation that Tyler Van Dyke has kind of been, I guess we could say, rehabbing his hand for the last several days after slamming it against the helmet in practice on his follow through. That's a painful thing for a quarterback. Helmets are obviously very hard, and when you're throwing a football, you're really extending your arm. You're coming, full speed on the follow through, and then boom, you smash it against the helmet. He caught the side of his hand on the thumb side and caught it and probably bruised it up a little bit. It's been sore. He's been having rehab for several days. We are expecting him back at practice this week at some point, and we are still expecting him to start on Friday night against Miami of Ohio. We have not gotten any indications that will not be the case. I guess, Matt, the people that like to worry will find, in the days leading up to game week, the team's not at full strength practice wise in the passing game, or maybe Tyler won't be 100%. I think hopefully by Friday night, with all the icing and everything that therapists can do these days, hopefully he'll be okay. And Tyler Van Dyke, who has worked so hard in the offseason months to get himself ready to go this season and have a great year, will be ready for Miami of Ohio.
Icing, the new invention. So I talked to someone yesterday who said, he views Tyler as 50-50 because a lot of people, until Tyler actually practices, they're always going to call him 50-50 because they don't know. He's got to go through a full practice, have no lingering after effects the day after. It can't swell up again. You can't have the pain, blah, 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 blah. And the other factor here is, I think he'll be able to play on Friday if he want. I think he would want to play. The question is, at that point, are you comfortable enough with Emory Williams potentially as your starter, maybe Jakari Brown as your starter, against the Miami Ohio team that was 6-7 last year, but has some people that can cause you problems? For a program like Miami, you can't take anyone for granted anymore. The old Miami teams, this would be an easy win no matter who's at quarterback. But nowadays, who the heck knows? Two new coordinators, who knows what's going to happen? So they might be treating this game like, a middle-of-the-road ACC opponent, not like what should be an easy win against a lower-level program that had a losing record last year. So depending how you view it, if you view it as this is an easy win no matter who's a quarterback, of course, why even risk Tyler if he's not 100% by Friday night? And maybe he will be close to 100% by Friday night. But the problem here is game 2 is against Texas A&M. And if something happens in that game to Tyler, he has a recurring problem. Like, remember last year? Perfect example, right? Tyler said, I'm going to give it a go and try to come back. And it just made it worse. And he was never able to play again the rest of the year. Now, history does repeat itself. But in this case, it's a totally different injury, totally different situation. But with that said, there's no guarantees he won't hit it on a helmet again. If there's still a bruise there, it's pretty easy to get that re-inflamed versus when you're 100% fully healthy, hurting it for the first time. So it's a question Miami will have to answer. Yes, he will be able to play on Friday night, in my opinion, from what I've been told. Yes. The question is, do they play him? Because just because you can play at 60 or 70%, you're better than the other guy at 100%. When you have Texas A&M in game 2, it's just a slippery slope. Do you have Tyler as your emergency quarterback? You've got out to a 14-0 lead. You don't have to worry about it. Or do you have a tight game at halftime and Tyler plays the second half? I don't know the answer. I'm not Mario Cristobal. But if it was me, and if Tyler's not at 100% for game one, I'm starting somebody else at quarterback. And I'm having Tyler available to play if you need him, because you don't need him to play the first quarter against Miami, Ohio. If you're up, if it's pretty evident after the first quarter, you've got this game in hand, it's a win-win. You're going to win the game. You're getting quarterbacks behind him experience. You're getting everyone's feet wet in the stadium. And now you got a 100% Tyler, I would think for sure with that much rest, because the injury occurred Tuesday, that he'll be 100% full go for Texas A&M and practice that whole week. What would you do if you were the coach, Gary? I mean, that's what I would do.
If he could play, I'm playing him. I'm not messing around with. If I'm Mario Cristobal, I'm not messing around with any game after what I went through last year. I'm treating every game this season like it's the Super Bowl, and I am not disrespecting any opponent. I'm not disrespecting any week on the schedule. I am coaching and playing every single game and every single week like it is the last game of my life, because you have to end the season with obviously a significantly better record than they had a year ago. And
so you're the guy who you're up 28-3 and your starters are still in the fourth quarter, Gary. That's you.
No,
you're worried. You're scared. You're scared that
something bad might happen. I'm not saying that now. If they're up 28-3 in the fourth quarter, I think I've got Tyler out of the game at that point. But I'm not playing around and taking a chance on Miami of Ohio getting momentum or any life at all in this game. I am coming out with all guns blazing, and I want to put them away early. And I think that the best chance of doing that is to have Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback. So obviously he has to be able to throw the ball, and they will be working through that this week in practice, and puts a little bit more mystery into the game from Miami of Ohio. They're not really going to be sure what they're preparing for, quite frankly. So that they're going to have to maybe spend a little extra practice time on Ja'Cory Brown and be prepared for a running quarterback as well as Tyler Van Dyke. And there's already enough mystery surrounding the Miami team in general and the offense in particular, with Shannon Dawson coming in, new personnel on the O-line, et cetera, et cetera. So you put it all together, and some people were concerned, oh my God, Miami of Ohio knows that, Tyler's banged up a little bit. I think it makes it harder for Miami of Ohio. It now gives them more to prepare for. And I wouldn't be concerned at all about that, quite frankly. Matt, I think that now the onus is going to be on their defense to be prepared for multiple things, and that takes time away from something else. So I wouldn't worry too much if I'm a Canes fan. It'll work itself out. Like we said, all indications are Tyler will be able to play, but you just don't know for sure until he actually gets out there and practices this week. And we will try to monitor that for you. We're not expecting a lot of information on that this week. I'm guessing that Mario Cristobal is going to want to keep a lot of this under wraps moving forward this week. But we will do our best to monitor the quarterback situation and keep you guys informed on what to expect for Friday night. All right. So we're going to obviously have a lot of football that we'll be talking about this week.
And by the way, we'll have an update with Mario in the morning in about an hour, I guess, from now, right? Maybe an hour and a half from now. So we'll have that. But then I don't remember what time stuff was done last year, but this year they're doing it in the afternoon. So, I would tune back if you're a fan and you want to see what Mario's talking about around 3:30 this afternoon, something like that, for him, followed by the coordinator.
That late.
Yeah.
It's going to be that late?
This year. This year they're doing it in the afternoons. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I hadn't seen that bulletin that just came through. So yeah, it's been moved to the afternoon. I don't know if that's going to be the case all year. But yeah, mid-afternoon, we'll have we'll have an early update with Mario and a late update with Mario tomorrow during the day. And, we'll talk to the coordinators as well. So we should have a lot more information for you guys on the website as we move forward here this morning and this afternoon. All right. So like I said, we're going to be talking football all week. A couple program notes. We got the launch of a new season of CaneSport Live Tuesday night, 8:00, the fan show. You guys will have a chance to call in. Azubi Charles will be co-hosting with me this year. We're going to bring him on to have another voice on the show as well. The show will still be centralized around your phone calls. So look forward to having many of you involved in that. Once again, on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, we will have the Lamar Thomas Show. The great one returns for another season, live from Canesware this year once again. So make sure you tune in on Wednesday night at 8 for that one. If you like this show, like our YouTube channel, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube and growing our audience. And we also have a special this week for those of you that are not yet subscribers to CaneSport.com. We got a kickoff week special, 50% off an annual subscription. So for $49.99, you can come in and get CaneSport for your first year and join our community and be part of what we believe is the best fan community on the internet for Hurricane fans, and take advantage of that special. All right, Matt, let's switch gears here a little bit. Let's talk about recruiting over the weekend. A couple big announcements. Zaquan Patterson, the defensive back from Hollywood Chaminade, he committed to the Hurricanes. And then later in the day, in a little bit of a disappointment, David Stone, the 5-star defensive tackle that Miami put so much effort into recruiting, he chose Oklahoma as his future destination. Miami will certainly not give up on that one. They will battle that one out right to the very end in December. But your thoughts on Miami splitting those two commit announcements over the weekend?
I told you beforehand I'd be happy with one of the two, but I wanted the one of the two to be Stone if they only got one, because that's really, the guy that's the position where they really, really need help, and he would have been a force in year one. I don't know. People are saying it's not over. I mean, his whole family wanted him to come to Miami. The Miami coaches couldn't have recruited him harder, and he still picked Oklahoma. So, I mean, I don't know what else you can do other than maybe go, win 10 games, I guess. That might help and have a great defense. But beyond that, I don't know what else you can do. And then with Zaquan, I understand why all these commitments happen before the season. A lot of these programs like Miami, if you are a commitment and you have a career-ending injury, they'll honor your scholarship and you'll go as a non-athlete and get a degree, and so it makes a lot of sense not to wait until signing day to announce a commitment. But, when you commit and you instantly say, oh, and by the way, I'm still open and I'm going to be taking official visits this fall to multiple programs, that's not a commitment to me. He announced his favorite. His favorite is Miami. He announced his number one choice, and he could have said it out on Twitter and saved himself some time and saved us some aggravation. Just say, right now my top choice is Miami, and number 2 is this school, number 3 is that school, number 4 is that school, because that's basically what he said. But this is I'm old school, like the Tyler Van Dyke reporting a brouhaha. We report the news. We report what we're allowed to report. Some people, want to say they knew it also, and so be it. But that's what we do. And to me, I'm going to keep it real. Like, Zaquan didn't commit. Zaquan said he has a favorite, and his favorite's Miami. And everyone wants to celebrate. That's great. But Miami, everything's become flipped on its head. Covering Miami football now, and we both are, have very good reports with Mario Cristobal. We've known him forever. He's great. But Mario has that Alabama Saban mindset when it comes to the media. And it's like North Korea, right? Everybody gets the exact same information. You better report it that way, except for some things. One media outlet sometimes is allowed to report something, another one isn't. Sometimes media outlets break a rule, not us, and you get banned from practices as a group, which was not anything we did. But this is what it's come to. And it's come now to, I never thought I'd see this, but I don't know if they're media fans, fan media, like there are fans that now cover the Hurricanes that I guess are media members. I don't know. But when you were, I worked for the Baltimore Sun covering high school sports. You worked for the Miami Herald, the National, right? Remember the National? So we sort of were trained in the old school version of journalism.
I mean, there's just a lot of fake media now.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You
check your sources, you get backup sources, you corroborate everything, and you report the news. That's our job, And yeah, there's a lot we don't report, of course, but there are things where, as a favor, you don't report something, or you hold it for a day or hold it for a week or whatever. It's not the end of the world, a lot of stuff. But for fans who are masquerading as media or whatever, I don't want to say, I don't want to use words that Gary doesn't know what they mean. But for fans that are masquerading as media, to say, I knew that, you know. First of all, it was on our message boards for a day before, and that morning there literally was a post. Matt Gary, please confirm Tyler Van Dyke is injured. You know, he hurt his hand. Whatever. Like, are we supposed to just let that run rampant as a rumor and just spread out? Like, oh my God, what's happening? Like the world's at an end. So he wrote a story with the facts. Not a big deal, right? 50-50, probably will be fine. And everyone acted like their hair was on fire. I mean, to me, it was like watching a Robin Williams movie. It was like sad and funny at the same time, because it's like this alternate reality we live in now, where who's ever heard of an actual journalist, a real journalist, telling another real journalist, "You shouldn't report the news. Stop reporting the news." Like, that's mind-boggling. In this case, it's not really journalists all the time. I'm not calling out anybody in particular, but you know, people know if they're journalists or not, right? If you're a fan, and if you are like, that's it, like, you know, God, country, but Miami's above that, you're a fan, okay? As a matter of fact, if it goes God, country, fan, family, you're still a fan. And probably if it goes God, country, family, University of Miami, and then, you know, money and whatever else is important to you, stone crabs, whatever, you're probably still a fan. And it's okay to be a fan and a journalist. But my list, and, you know, you people out there, I just keep it real. My list, I have journalists just above fan. Like, I'm sorry, that's me. Like, that's how I was built. That's how I was built. You want Miami to win. You want Miami to do well. But you have to be true to your calling, to your job, and talk to your sources and do your job, and not be like, oh, you know, I can't report, you know, anything because if I'm a fan, you know, like, I have to say everything's bad about Florida State. No, Florida State does some good things. If I'm a fan, Florida does everything bad. Florida's terrible. I mean, you have to be honest about things and report things on a level playing field. And I'm not talking about the Tyler Van Dyke story. That was perfectly legitimate to report. I'm saying in general, the way media is now, that's how everything has become.
No, I think there's just a lot of fake media out there. And, you know, they have Twitter handles, or, you know, they put up a website, and now all of a sudden they think that they're media, or they want to make people think that they're media. And then they go on Twitter and they say things, and they think they're taking shots at other people and stuff. And it's a clown show. Like we pay zero attention to any of that nonsense. And obviously we wish the general public paid zero attention to it as well, like we do. Sometimes that's not the case when we have to deal with it a little bit, but like, listen, we've been doing this a long time, and hopefully those of you that follow us and are on our website see that, and, you know that you can trust our judgment on things. And, you know, we press on through all of that. All right. So,
by the way, I'm changing my statement. I'm putting journalists in Miami even. They could be even, right? Are they allowed to be even? I'm going to make Miami fan and journalism even. Let's do that, so I don't get all the hate. Everyone's going to hate me anyway. I won't get all the hate. Maybe there'll be two people.
You're just an easy target. Well, you know,
I am, because I don't care. I'm like you. I don't care. Like, I'll just tell it how I see it. It might not be right all the time, but it is what I believe. I say what I believe, and like, if people don't like it, too bad. Like, I don't want to be on this show. I don't sugarcoat that. Like, I don't want to be here right now. I don't want to be doing. You think I want to wake up and have people just attacking me for being a moron and annoying, and people's dogs run out of the room when they hear my voice? Like, do you think that's what I need in my life? No, I have no interest in being here. I just do it because I'm a journalist, and I'm being told that's what I have to do.
All right. So the Hurricanes split those commitments over the weekend, but we've got an enormous amount of other recruiting coverage on the website. I'll just touch on some of them. We're not going to elaborate on all of them. 2025 quarterback Luke Nickel, he passed through town this weekend for his season opener at Fort Lauderdale Western. Gave us a chance to talk to him on several fronts, and he's got a 4-star teammate that he's hoping that will join him in the 2025 class. We've got a story on that on the website. Story on Miami linebacker commit Vincent Shavers. We have a story on Juan Minaya, Miami's offensive line commit, and preview how he's doing going into his season. We talked to Josiah Trader, the receiver at Hollywood Chaminade, who looked very good in his opener, by the way, about the help that he's getting from the Hurricane coaching staff as he goes into his season. We got a story on a guy that's in the recruiting class that's becoming even more important by the day because of some of the failures recruiting some of the other defensive tackles that are in the class. That's a defensive tackle commit, Artavius Jones. His coaches tell us that they have never seen a kid that has the body type or the skill set of Artavius Jones. He's now one of the absolute most important recruits in this class. We've got a story on him. We've got a story on Miami cornerback commit, Romanus O.J. Frederic. He looked very good in his season opener the other day. Safety commit, Dylan Day. We got a story on him. Offensive line commit, Derek Plaz, one on him. Miami center commit, Nino Francavilla. We update where he stands going into his senior season. And then we have a story on 2025 defensive back, Javion Holiday, whose list of programs continues to swell. And we talk about how Miami has joined that list by offering Javion Holiday. So an awful lot of recruiting coverage for you guys to dig into. And then, of course, we still have some more football coverage. We got a story with Corey Couch, who tells us that he sees a deep and talented Miami Hurricanes cornerback room with competition, bringing out the best in everyone. And Matt, let's take a pause here and talk about this for a minute. We were discussing this actually yesterday about how difficult it is for us as we're previewing the season to project who are the starters going to be at corner. They got a lot of guys competing there. Obviously, Corey Couch, who we have a story on today, is part of that mix. But just your general thoughts on the overall state of the cornerback position as we get here to game week.
Well, let's start with, I'm very confident in the defensive line, very confident in the safeties. Still not 100% sold on the linebackers or linebacker depth whatsoever. I think Maui will be the best of the bunch, but after that, I'm just not sold yet. And mainly because Wesley Saints hasn't really stood out above KJ Cloyd that much. And then, so that brings us to cornerback, and that's really the key of the whole season to me, because I think the offense is going to be really good. And I think the defense is going to be average to slightly below average in the ACC. Just because the cornerbacks are such a big question in the way the defense is run. This is a defense that is complex, complicated. If there's a bust, it can go for a long touchdown, and it can happen quite often. The key to it really is understanding it, because Lance Guidry didn't have these kinds of athletes previously at his other stops, right? They weren't major programs. So he's got a whole different type of athlete right now. And what we were talking about the other day, Gary, is, Kevin Steele, fans were happy when Kevin Steele got out of here, right? Kevin Steele's defense was average here last year, right? It was an average defense. It just was. It was ranked, 70th in the country, or in the 59th in the country, something like that. It was in the middle of the pack. But he was very experienced. He ran a traditional 4-3 defense, blitzes once in a while, like a very solid, sound, proven defense that he knew from over the years, didn't make the playbook too complicated. Guys would miss tackles, guys had bad eye discipline, and that's why it wasn't a top defense. But, Alabama certainly knows he's a good enough defensive coordinator, right? He's there now. So now you go from that defense to a defense that nobody at Miami's ever seen before. This is going to be, he calls it, I think, a 4-2-5, right? But in reality, he stacks the box constantly. Everybody on the field will blitz, constant movement, pre-snap movement. Defensive line will be dropping into coverage. Linebackers will be, constantly either running up to the line right before the snap or dropping back. James Williams will be all over the field. And the cornerbacks will be one-on-one a lot. That's just how he has run his defense in the past. Now, it'll be interesting to see in game one if he maybe thinks the cornerbacks aren't good enough and he becomes more Kevin Steele-ish, so to speak, and runs a more traditional defense with safety help over the top, things like that. But we'll see. My guess is no, because this is the defense he runs. It's the playbook he gave them, and it's what he wants to do. So, and the players love it. The players love it because they can do whatever the hell they want. They can just one-on-one try to beat their guy and make a play in the backfield. So for Miami, South Florida, Miami athletes, they love that sort of thing. Now, will it work? It could either be great or really, really bad. And I'm not sure which it's going to be yet. I'm hedging in the middle. That's why I said it'll be middle of the pack defense. But the truth is, if the corners aren't good enough And if the defense doesn't get there against good quarterbacks, North Carolina could score 50-plus points. Like, that's not hard to envision. But if the defense really comes together, and if they can run this kind of defense, which really can confuse an offense, if they're fast enough and they get to the quarterback fast from all different spots and the offensive line's confused, I mean, this defense can blow up Clemson, can blow up North Carolina, can blow up Florida State. So, that's sort of the gamble Mario Cristobal took. And maybe it's a gamble worth taking at this point, because we've seen the same old for so long. I mean, Manny Diaz, I was talking to someone the other day, like, he's got arguably the top defense in the country now at Penn State, and he had a really good defense here at Miami for 1 or 2 years also. But then that went by the wayside, obviously. But he runs a similar attacking style, not as crazy attacking as Lance Guidry, but similar in its philosophy of get in the backfield, make tackles for loss, make sacks, be disruptive, create mistakes. That's what this defense is all about. On the flip side, it can also create explosive plays. So my concerns are runs up the middle that are going to break free, and throws deep down the field on the boundary corners. Those are my two major concern areas, and those are legitimate major concern areas based on everything I've been hearing coming out of fall practice from people who have been there. So we'll see. Like, there's just like we talked about, there's so many unknowns this year. Offense, totally new personnel, new system. Defense, new system. A lot of the same personnel, but a new system. And it's just so hard to predict what's going to happen. That's why this is one of those game ones where you really, really are excited about it, because no matter what happens, it's going to be newsworthy. But
yeah, and it's go to the stadium with your rosters, everybody, because this is we're not expecting to see a depth chart before Saturday. I mean, before Friday night, rather. There's so many bodies at so many of these different spots, and cornerback is an absolute example. Who's going to be first on the field? I mean, it's hard to predict. I mean, they could go in so many different directions. So make sure you pack your roster with you when you head to the stadium on Friday. Either that or do a lot of studying up on numbers and names this week leading up to the game, because it's going to be interesting to see what the coaches roll out there on opening night. All right, one other story that we have on the website today. Also, our resident historian, Jim Martz, who's getting ready to cover what probably about his 50th or so Miami season opener this week. He writes a little bit about just the varied history of season openers with highlights and lowlights. And Matt, one thing that comes to my mind is, and I've always hated so many of these season openers when you open against Bethune-Cookman or FAMU, and it's not a real competitive game. I like this level of competition for opening night. I really do, and I wish Bethune was not even on the schedule. A little later on here in the month, because to me, this is the baseline for what Miami should be playing. This Miami of Ohio team is competent enough to give you a test and allow you to get better as a football team. You should still beat them. You're 17-point favorites. Okay. So to me, that's good enough. Okay. I'll take 17-point favorites on opening night. Give me an opponent that is somewhat competent in executing football plays, because that's going to allow my team to get better coming out of week one. I am not sure you get better playing Bethune-Cookman and winning by 60, plus points. Matt, I love this schedule with Miami, Ohio, week one. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I like having a game, your first game. It depends, I guess. For Miami in this particular situation, it's good to have a Miami, Ohio first game. You don't want to go from a really, really bad team to a really, really good team. So Miami, Ohio is not, a middle-level ACC team. It would be, the equivalent of probably one of the bottom 3 ACC teams, bottom 4 ACC teams, which is fine. It's not a totally nonsense, let's just play against somebody else and beat up somebody else game, which I always find so silly. And then, to go to Texas A&M, you want to keep ratcheting up the competition. So you sort of see what you do in that first game, and you get a really good sense of here's where we are. Now, you only have 1 week. The problem is you only have 1 week, whatever problems you had to fix them. But hopefully there's a lot of good things to build on versus really bad things that you're spending the whole week trying to correct, And of course, Texas A&M is going to be looking very intently at that first game. So now the question also becomes, do you have to show your whole playbook on both sides of the ball? Because I'm hoping that on defense, they can afford to not do that. Be a little more conservative. Like I was talking about earlier, there's no reason you can't against a team like this. And then against Texas A&M, really dial up some of the intricate plays that guys like James Williams and Ruben Bain and people like that didn't show that you didn't see last year on tape, right? Nothing that Texas A&M can see about Ruben Bain other than high school tape. They don't know how they're going to use him inside or outside and what rushes he's going to be using. They don't know where James Williams is going to be lining up. They can watch him play safety last year. He's going to be doing totally different things this year. So there's a lot that they can possibly hide on defense. I don't think on offense they can really afford to do that because Miami Ohio's strength is its defense. Like, they have a good defense. Their offense is more suspect. They have 9 starters back on defense. I think 12 of the top 15 tacklers from last year. And last year they were ranked one of the top defenses in the country. So you really can't mess around too much. Like Gary was saying, you got to play Tyler and you got to try to win. When Gary said that earlier, I actually don't necessarily disagree with him. Usually I disagree with him. It could go, to me, I did say sit Tyler at the first quarter, see what the score is. But yeah, when Gary actually made a good point, I'm going to sit here and be hard-headed about it and say he was wrong. When he said it, it made sense. Like, yeah, start Tyler, win the game, move on. Even if he's at 70%, you just hope he stays healthy. I mean, football players are always hurt anyway. But I don't think you can hide much on offense against Miami, Ohio. And you know what? If Texas A&M sees what you're doing on offense, it's one of those situations like in the old days, like, this is our best that we've got. You bring your best you got, and let's see who wins. That's Miami's offense against Texas A&M's defense. Like, I have no problem with that. But I think on Miami's defensive side, there were some surprises against the Texas A&M offense that was bad last year, but will be better this year. There are some surprises that they can dial up, that they can hold back from this game for Texas A&M.
Yeah. So anyway, it's the start of game week. We got a lot of stuff on the website for you this morning. We'll have a lot more as the day goes forward. And then as the week continues, again, Tuesday night, the launch of CaneSport Live, the new season. Wednesday night, the Lamar Thomas Show. Hope all you guys can join us for those shows. And as we build up momentum for Friday night. So that's going to do it for this morning for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting out your day with us. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.